And now, an introspective with a cyber guy.
This is not a theological representation or proofs that I want everybody to believe in. Please remember the video series that I'm doing called Bible, Fact, or Fiction. I'm going to tweak it a little. It's the title for search purposes will be a little more specific. This one's going to be called Does God Like Pie? What a Whale of a Story. And you'll understand that in a moment. And this is going to be insight into what I believe to be true. The Bible's been ridiculed and vehemently destroyed for decades. That's fine. It can take it. What I'd like you to know is that this is what makes me believe in the Bible. This series I'm going to do. I'm not going to try to pretend I'm a teacher anymore or anything like that. This is what I call my evidence. Scientific? No, it's not scientific. It's what I believe to be true. And people may want to know the reasons and stuff. That's another video. But I'm going to give two examples here of errors that have been going on for hundreds of years. One of them is the symbol for pi. And the problem is, in 1 Kings chapter 7, verse 23, they call it the sea or something. They were building this big tank. I don't know if it was for swimming or whatever. And bathing, I think. The circumference was 30 feet, the diameter is 10. Well, whoa. Bad news for the mathematicians. Doesn't work out. Where's pi involved here? 10 foot times pi is more than 30 feet. 30.14 to be exact. So they think God made a mistake. And you can see by the graphs I'm going to put up the reasons why I believe it's not an issue. As you can see by this graph, there's many variations in a cubit. Also, I failed to mention that there are other reasons for the difficulties of the use of pi. One was, did they measure to the inside diameter or the outside, because it's very thick. Also, it was a flower or reeded shaped object, so where exactly did they measure to? So what I'm expressing here is only my opinion, and there are many others. They're self-explanatory. You can look at the graphs. They, from the Jewish book, Weights and Measures, I looked at that, and they had many different uses for a cubit. And of course, when they were building a building or some structure, they had a standard. And but in a lot of things they were building, it was from your elbow to the tip of your middle finger. That was a cubit. And there were several different references to the Egyptians who used about 20 3/5 or 53.3 centimeters. The ancient Romans used 17.5. The Israelites' cubit at the time of Solomon was 25.5. So but the point of it is to get so upset over this dimension. I mean, it was 2,500 years ago. I think the graphs will speak for themselves. There were several different insights into what a cubit was. And, well, I don't think it's a problem. It's not one for me. If you want to hang your hat on God didn't know what pi was, well, he'd be a pretty stupid God. So the next thing is, One of my favorite stories is, and the one most ridiculed, which I can understand, is Jonah in chapter 2, verse 10. And it talks about, and you can see the graphs here, that Jonah was swallowed by a great fish. Well, if you read it close, and I've read it many times, but it never stuck. I didn't really get anything out of it. It was a story that I just thought, I got other things to deal with in the Bible. I'm not going to worry about that one right now. But as I read it very closely this time, and it was right in front of my eyes. I have listed here 4 or 5 different Bible versions, and you can see they all basically are referring to the same exact thing. And what I'm going to read now is now that the Lord had prepared a great fish to swallow Jonah. I mean, did you get it? God prepared it. It wasn't some random fish. If you're not a Christian, this won't help you at all. But as a Christian, we believe that God created the universe and everything in it. What's the big deal with him creating a special fish? Well, he could have had room service, Wi-Fi, anything he wanted. I mean, God did this. What's the big deal about Jonah and the whale? You know, if you don't believe in God, that would be hard to swallow. No pun intended. But God prepared this fish. And as a Christian, that seems like a piece of cake if he created the universe. So, many things in the Bible, the issues and the problems are really a lack of interpretation, of understanding, of hermeneutics, the language. The original inerrant word of God was the spoken word at the time it was spoke by the person who spoke it. You know, who's going to go back in time and really diligently go through all that? You know, I try to dabble in it. But most people, when they want to ridicule the Bible, they don't do that. You know, they come up with Jonah and the whale. How'd that ever happen? Well, said God prepared it. Small change for God if he created you.